Welcome to this video. This is Prashant. I am the founder of Wordpandit and I am bringing this series of videos for you which are going to help you crack reading comprehensions. We've already had part 1 of this video where I have talked about the nature of different reading comprehension questions, and in this video as well I'm going to extend this topic forward, right? In the first video I primarily talked about big picture questions and how do you deal with them in your general approach for these questions. Today I'm going to talk about specific detailed questions and the approach you need to adopt for these. Now the first step is, what are specific detailed questions? Which kind of questions are we talking about? Now, for example, the first and the most common question type in this category, which one of the following cannot be inferred from the passage? There are variations of these. They can ask you which one of the following can be inferred from the passage except, all of the following can be inferred from the passage except, none of the following can be inferred from the passage except. So you can add the except at the end, right at the end, and play with the students, right? So this is a common trick which is employed, so be careful of it. Do spot the except. Another question type in this category of questions, the author of the passage will agree, disagree with the statement, or any generic such options, basically checking author agreement, disagreement. Detailed or fact-based questions which are based on specific details, these are deductions. They ask you to factually verify whether the information is correct or not. Or vocabulary or meaning-based questions which are going to revolve around the meanings of words or particular phrases, or paraphrase the following extract from the passage. Paraphrase is nothing else but it is asking you to identify the meaning of the extract. What does that extract mean? As simple as that. That is what is being asked about. Now, how do you deal with these questions? The biggest problem with these questions is that these are based on, as I said earlier, specific details. How do you deal with things which are based on specific details of the passage, specific parts of the passage? Because our biggest problem is we don't have a photographic memory. Since we don't have a photographic memory, we forget what we've read, and since we forget what we've read, that lands us in a lot of trouble. So how do we deal with it? In fact, I'm going to give you a small little input here which you can use very, very effectively for RCs. The most crucial thing for these types of questions is to know what you're searching for, right? Now, during your first read of the passage itself, you need to know what you're looking out for. Now, how do you do this? Basic, simple, common sense. Before you start to read the passage itself, read the question prompts first, right? Just the question prompts and not the answer options. Just read the prompts, what is being asked about. So if there is any particular specific detail that has been probed in the questions, you would know that this has been asked. So while reading the passage in the first go itself, you will be extra careful, right? Now for these questions, remember, you always have to refer back to the passage, right? You have to go back to the passage, reread, and then find the information. Now by reading the question prompts first and identifying which specific parts of the passage the question is based on, you are mentally prepared, right? You've already identified where that information is derived from, and that massively helps you cut down the amount of time you spend on these questions. So this is one thing that you need to do. Now you have to preempt these questions before you start to read the passage. Hence, make sure you read the question prompts, make a mental note of what you're looking for. This activity is doing nothing else but it is just preempting the questions, right? You are already in that mental framework where you can identify the context of the information from where the question is derived. Now, why is this information important? The information that you've extracted. Remember, most of these questions, they revolve around information extracted just before or after the specific detail talked about in the question. What do I mean by this? Remember, any specific detail that has been asked in a particular question, it has been set in some context, right? That information has to be placed in a context, right? So that specific detail, there will be a reference point in the passage. This would generally occur before that reference of that particular fact, or just after the author will make some implication from this detail, right? So that context is very, very vital for answering these questions. So if you're able to identify the context and the information, be always on the lookout for 2 lines above, 2 lines before, or just a paragraph before, and that is going to contain clues. Why has the author mentioned that particular detail? That is very, very important. Remember, the why did he use that information, that detail is very crucial, and in most of the questions questions, this is probed, right? Now the next thing that you've got to keep in mind for these questions and the particular details that you've got to keep in mind is you've got to identify, right, what you are being asked in these passages. Are you being asked facts or opinions? This differentiation is very, very critical, right? Now majority of the times, right, in fact in 99% of the cases, all RC questions, they revolve around some sort of facts. Even the inferences they ask you, these are actually derived from the facts mentioned. Now what do I mean by an opinion? Whenever something is classified as good or bad, whenever you pass a judgment on something, whenever you pass an opinion on something, that this is good or this is bad, this has been mentioned in the passage and this is a good thing, those are opinions. So always be on the lookout for these, right? Rarely would an opinion be an answer to a question, right? Because remember, in RC questions, you are being asked to identify and correlate with the information given in the passage itself. So opinions cannot really be the answer. Whenever you are being asked to infer also something from the passage, you have to stay within the ambit of information mentioned. Next thing, standard RC option elimination techniques apply in these cases. In this question, identify the scope of the passage. If the passage is about, say, global warming in India, please do not extend it to global warming in the world. Information mismatch. There is a subtle change in information. One fact has been edited, altered, slightly changed. It might appear as if the information is taken from the passage, but it might have a slight alteration. Or extreme answer options. You introduce things such as all, never, always in the answer options, which makes it extreme in nature. These are standard things that you have to be on the lookout for. So these are all the things that you've got to keep in mind for this particular question types. These are the generic things that you keep in mind for specific detailed questions. We will have individual videos for individual question types as well, which are going to provide you further details. You use this information, these details to answer questions, right? And you employ the small little tips and tricks and techniques we've talked about in this video and improve your accuracies in RCs. Hope you had a great time watching this video, and as always, happy learning.